Hello everyone, welcome in. Since it's been a while since the last Sunset Mirage episode, today I really just want to jump right in. As you will have noticed during the preview, we're going to be building an ore industry area today, and if we take a look at our resources tab, we can see that the ore is nestled into the base of these mountains, which means we're going to have to do a little bit of prep work first to terraform this area out and get it ready for the build. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into a time lapse while I get this area ready. Now that we've cleared out a bit of an area here for our buildings in a moment, what I need to do next is get some road frames in for some housing. We're still several thousand people away from our next milestone, where we'll be able to open up a new tile, and we're gonna need some people to employ in the industry area. So I'd like to get an area set up for what will become a touch of carefully curated, vanilla high-density residential. With that finished, I'll hold off on actually zoning it until we're ready for our industry area. But before we can even start plopping buildings, there's one more super important step to take care of first, and that is providing this area with a cargo rail connection. During testing for this episode, I completely forgot this until the very end, and well, let's just say there's a reason that became the test save and not the final version. So this time I wanted to get this set up first, and what I would like for it to do is come in on our existing line that's connected to our farming and oil cargo train stations, and eventually, hopefully, if it works this way, go back out the same way, but have it veer off toward the water, where I hope to eventually have a cargo ship hub. Again though, before we can even think about cargo ships, first we need another tile, but we also need to get this station set up and running. Really quickly, before I carry on and my city dies, I see some power issues coming up, and I have plans to address the power in this episode, so for now, I'm just going to bump up the budget to 150% and I'll deal with it later. Now that that's set up and we've got water situated, which I forgot again, as usual, it's time to finally get started on laying down some roads for this area and getting some buildings finally placed. I personally am a big fan of having some of the bulkier, more interesting industry buildings set along highways, so to help with that, I'm first going to place a road parallel to this highway near the slip ramp I set up several episodes ago in preparation for this build. So this road will hopefully house a few industry buildings that give this highway a nice view of the area as they pass by. Next, to plan the rest of the roads, we'll need to take a look at the resources tab again, since our extraction buildings will need to have the resource underneath. Our processing buildings, while they do need to be in the industry area, do not need to have access to the resource itself, so those can go anywhere. But in the blue area where the ore is, that's where we'll need our extractors. With the traffic that industry areas produce, we'll need to try to plan for any issues ahead of time, and I think a decent way to do that is to start with a roundabout to introduce this area. Then of course, we'll need to set up our roads coming off from the roundabout. So first, we'll need to have one go straight through on the other side, and that will be where our extraction buildings go, since that's where the resource is. Then off to the right side of the roundabout, we'll naturally have a road leading off toward our cargo train station. These always tend to give me a bit of trouble, as I don't often plan them well into my builds, which is something I'm working on. And the fact that I'm not super familiar with the mechanics of how they work as far as the game's AI is concerned. All I really know, and have learned from others, is that one-way roads are pretty much essential for these to make sure traffic doesn't get out of hand. But as of right now, I'm struggling a little bit and not entirely sure how I want this area to look. I just know I need that cargo station, so for now I'm going to do what I do best when I hit a block. I'm going to ignore it and come back to it later and hope something comes to me. Instead, I'm going to head back over to the other side of the roundabout and give us a connection to that frontage road sitting parallel to the highway that we created earlier and give it a nice 90-degree connection. And now we're finally ready to jump back into the Industries tab and grab our Ore Industry main building and find a nice place to plop it. Now, the appearance of this building does change as the industry levels up, so that's something to keep in mind as well, but I think for now it will go nicely on this frontage road looking out onto the highway. As we continue placing more buildings and finding where things fit the best, I may move things around a little bit, but I would love to give passersby a nice view of this building either on the arterial or the highway. The final thing before our industry area can be operational is to plop our small ore mine, which again needs to have the resources accessible as well as be within our specialized industry area, which, oops, I did forget to actually draw out the industry area after placing the main building. Normally that's the first thing I do, but I forgot. So let's go and do that really quickly first. Now we can head back into our Industries tab and grab the small ore mine again and find a place for it. As I've mentioned, this building does have to have access to the resource itself for extracting, so any of these we place need to be over the blue areas. And while I could easily just plop this down and call it a day, after thinking about it, I think to circumvent any future traffic issues, it's probably a good idea to keep this road coming off the roundabout as clear as possible, making it more of an artery for this area. So why don't we draw out a few holding roads that will house our extraction buildings. This time for real, we are ready to go back into our Industries tab and finally place our small ore mine. As you might guess, the mine is the building that will actually pull the resource from the ground for use and or further processing. Since I would like to move away from non-renewable energy sources, we're going to process this ore into other goods instead. And for that, we need the ore grinding mill, which will take the ore and turn it into metal. Here is where I'd like to start using this frontage road and creating some nice sightlines from the passing highway. To do that, we'll need to amend our road frames a bit and make sure that there's space for some of the other buildings we're going to need to make this ore area fully operational. Though I don't plan to make this into a 5-star industry area, and I know that I say that every single time and we've only made 5-star areas, I do need at least 2 stars for this one to be able to produce both special goods, metal and glass, so that we have all the resources we need for our unique factories we have throughout the city. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into another really quick time lapse here while I finish out some of these road frames and hopefully get the cargo train station set up as well, and finally find a road configuration I like for there. I think I'm happy with this configuration for now. As always, things may change as more buildings become available, but I'm happy with that for the time being. Now it's time to address the power issue from earlier, since raising the budget is not a long-term solution. And this is where a bit of storytelling comes in. I find it fun to mix and match things in Cities Skylines that wouldn't ordinarily go together, and since we need residential expansion as well, and I've been dying to use the Green City's high-density housing, I had the thought that the folks on this side of Sunset Mirage were unhappy with the amount of pollution the oil industry and oil power plants were causing on the other side of the city. And before it got out of control with the new ore industry coming in, they lobbied the city to stunt the growth of the ore industry. Eventually, they came to an agreement to allow the ore mines to continue only if instead of a new advanced coal power plant, the city turned to renewable energy sources like solar. And as the area moved towards more renewable energy, so too did the citizens, eventually creating a green community, which doesn't exist yet, but it will. I need the other tile for that, because my plan is for it to eventually join up with the low-density Green Cities neighborhood we have by the university. I know I could just plop the buildings down, even if they don't make sense, but I like to add a little bit of lore where it fits. So thanks for indulging me for a moment. At this point, we're mostly just waiting to have enough employees to get to the next level so that we can unlock the processing building that allows us to make glass. So in the meantime, I'm going to go through, jump into another time lapse, and do just a little bit of maintenance to get this area looking its best. Oops, as usual, I got a little carried away thinking too far ahead and forgot to add in a storage facility. I'm not 100% sure if they're required for full functionality, but they're definitely useful, and since they do add to our worker capacity, which we will need to fill to hit 2 stars and unlock our glass processing building, I'm going to plop that down really quickly here. Shortly after placing the storage facility, I luckily noticed half of the city was without power, which was really just a connection issue, since we've now got plenty of power with our solar plant. But while I was dealing with that, and doing a little bit of light, boring maintenance, I checked back in on our industry area, and we're still not quite at the employee level we need to level up. So now it's time to go and zone up some high-density residential in the area I set up for it earlier. Now, I'm not normally a fan of zoning high-density right up next to low-density, but again, since we need some rapid residential expansion to open up more of the city for the plans I have, I'm going to do it anyway. That being said, I am going to be very careful about what buildings come in to make sure we don't get anything too tall. It would look really jarring and honestly just ridiculous, in my opinion, if we had these towering apartment complexes right next to single-family homes. But there are quite a few vanilla high-density residential assets that are on the smaller side. So I'm going to go ahead and take my time with this area and mark every building as historical, so that it doesn't change its appearance. And hopefully when that's done, we'll have the people we need for our industrial area. Okay, now that we've got some more people into the city, let's check back in on our industrial area and see if we've got enough people yet. So we can see in here that we have the capacity for 165 workers and only need 150, so we're good to go on that. The good news is we still have plenty of demand for residential, and I've also gone ahead and made a separate district for this high density area and given it the schools out policy, which means adults will choose to go straight to work instead of university. Typically, industry areas, without additional policies to change it, want lower educated employees, so I'm hoping that with this policy on, most of these new residents will choose to go to work at our ore mine and help us reach 2 stars. Plus, we still need several thousand people before our next milestone where we can finally open another tile. And I know we still have like 2.5 empty tiles still on other parts of the map, but I just really need to open this specific tile that we're butting up against now, so I'd really love to hit that goal soon. I'm just very eager to start working toward the downtown finally, and this tile is essential to my plans. Okay, confession time. I know I just said I was really eager to get this tile opened, and when I went into the whole map view, it said I could purchase a tile, which got me really excited because I thought I'd forgotten having hit a milestone that gave me another tile. But this is where I messed up, and I swear it was unintentional. I have the 81 Tile 2 mod installed and meant to always disable it before loading this city, but many episodes ago, I forgot, and now I can't disable the mod for this save without breaking it. So I've technically had access to all the tiles for quite a while now, but have been waiting to open them up per the vanilla milestones, but I fucked up. My bad. I thought it was odd it allowed me to purchase a tile, and now I know why. But who am I to look a gift horse in the mouth? Now that I have the tile, I'm going to use it. At least for terraforming purposes. And you can all hold me accountable for this in the comments, but I would like to continue not using that tile until we reach the appropriate milestone where I was supposed to have unlocked it. Which really shouldn't be too much longer. Anyway, in the meantime, we still need to reach level 2 in our industry area, so I'm going to work on a bit of detailing to pass the time, and I'll see you again when I reach level 2. Now that I've gone through and done a bit of detailing, as well as fixing a few noise complaint issues, we should be just about to hit level 2. We've got less than 10 people left, so hopefully not too much longer. And there we go, level 2, which has given us a few productivity boosts, as well as some new buildings, including the worker barracks, industrial steel plant, glass manufacturing plant, ore storage, and an underground ore mine. So now if we come back over to the other side of our ore area and check on our main building, we've got the people that we need now. I do want to place a few of the new buildings that we got, and I'd like to start with the worker barracks, which I think I'm just going to place 2 of them right here next to the ore industry main building. They both give us a couple boosts that I think will really help making sure that we still are profitable, despite being such a small ore mine. And again, because I don't want this area to necessarily be 5 stars and be a super sprawling ore industry, I don't want to place too many other buildings, but I do want to go in and place this underground ore mine. Now, this is another one of our extractor buildings, which again needs to be on top of the resource itself. So any of these darker areas, that's where it needs to be. So I'm thinking up here on this little flatter spot on top of the hill is probably a good place. It's one of those buildings that messes with the terrain if it's not already flat. So a flat space is ideal for it. Now, it's given us some weird jank here. I'm going to see if I can try to smooth it out a little bit. But it looks like because it's too close to the road, it's just not going to do it for me. So I'm going to go ahead and move it over just a tad. It's going to get rid of some of my rocks, but I can always place in some more. And now the terrain is going to be a little bit easier to work with. And again, I can cover it up with some more rocks and detailing later to make it look a little bit nicer. So we can see now that with just a little bit of carefully placed rocks, it looks a little bit better now. I wish I could get the rocks a tad bit closer to the building itself, but the collision mesh is a little bit bigger than I would like. So we're going to leave it there for now. What we need to do next is finally place our glass manufacturing plant, which I'm going to go ahead and place down here. I think I want it to be up against the highway, so I think probably what I need to do is draw out another holding road here. That way it can sit sort of parallel to the highway. And this building will then take our ore, turn it into glass, which we then can convert into luxury goods with some of our unique factories. Then the final building that I want to place here before we jump into our final detailing time-lapse of the day is just another ore storage facility. So I'm going to place it along the freeway here just like I did the other one. And then that will do it for the main build. I think I'm going to try to find a place to fit some unique factories in. I'll probably throw them along the oil industry just because there's so much space still over in that area. And we don't really have that kind of space over here. So with that, I'm going to jump into a bit of a time lapse and I will see you with the finished product. The very last thing we need to do before I send you all off with some cinematics of our finished industry area is give it a name. This time I'd like to honor Dr. Beat Games, who has been very active in the comments lately, so I just wanted to show my appreciation for that. I've been so bad at remembering to name things after you lovely folks watching the channel, and I would like to start doing it more often. So if you'd like something in the city named for you, leave comments, feedback, suggestions, anything really, to let me know you're there, and I'll honor you in our lovely little city of Sunset Mirage, because I truly do appreciate each and every one of you. I'm thrilled to be able to share something I love and enjoy with others, so it really means the world to me to see others enjoy it as well. But otherwise, that is all I have for you today. As always, if you've enjoyed the content, likes and comments are always appreciated, and if you want to see more of the city grow and want to see some Cities Skylines 2 content coming soon, subscribe below and turn on those notifications so you don't miss out. And I swear I'm almost done. Just one last thing and I'll shut up. I've set up a Discord channel, which will be linked in the description below as well as on my channel page. I love chatting with others about City Skylines and felt it was time to make a place for us all to do that. So if you're interested in having a place to chat about City Skylines, or really anything else for that matter, I'd love to see you in the Discord. And with that, I am finally finished. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Hope to see you again soon with some City Skylines 2 content.